Welcome once again to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture, a pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast where we focus on various aspects of video games as well as other issues and topics within gaming in general. Hello there. Welcome back to The Lost Signals, games and gaming culture, and today we're going to discuss the C word. No, not that one. Collectibles, that is to say. Which is something we've been talking about for a while. I had to get that in there. You guys weren't expecting that, I know.
No.
That was just for me.
I did.
But, regardless, yes, collectibles in games and the pros and cons and which ones did it well, we think, and which ones didn't do well, and like how you can do them well. Like what makes sense to have as a collectible and why, and what works and what doesn't. So, my original idea was to start off with sort of like a kind of vague history about it. And I was trying to, when I was getting my notes down, I thought to myself, like, if you really think about it, like, even the coins in the original Mario Brothers are technically collectibles, right? So, we'll start there. But, here's where the division starts and where I think it continues throughout gaming history.
Well, before we go on,
yeah,
would you like to introduce us?
No, I wouldn't, actually. Sure.
I feel like they know who we are. At this point.
Well, for those who don't know, I, of course, remain Scott Thurlow. Tonight, I'm here with Rich Perry.
So,
Chris Morgan.
Good evening.
And Stephen Amosi.
And I'm here collecting all the coins.
And we're all collectibles, yes. So yeah, sorry. But to go back, like, in theory, right? The coins, and you were saying, Precast Evo, that even the rings in Sonic are, like, technically count. But the division is... Go.
I have a distinction to make between those two, because the coins will at least give you extra lives.
Right.
When you collect them, if you collect enough, you get an extra life. As far as the rings go, they are your life.
Yes.
In Sonic. So... I don't know if I would necessarily count them as a collectible. I think they are items that you collect along your way for sure.
Right, but they're not optional. They're essential.
Are necessary, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, going back to Mario, because the coins, I can't remember if the coins did everything, but weren't there mushrooms or something that would...
Well, those were just upgrades.
Oh, those are just power-ups that weren't...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't call those collectibles either. Like
they're not.
So, actually, Scott, why don't you tell us what you think of as collectibles, and then maybe we can go through like all of this.
Give you like a vague definition. Yeah. So, yeah, here's what I come up with. Like, building off of that, those are gameplay, like, core gameplay elements, more or less. I guess you don't have to collect any coins in Mario, but if you do, you get a benefit mechanically. You get an extra life that is helpful to continue playing the game. Mm-hmm. In Sonic, as you mentioned, if you have 0 rings and get hit, then you die. If you have at least 1 ring at all times, then you can collect. If you get hit and it bounces off of you and you collect it again and you can continue. There are, I believe, other kinds of collectibles in Sonic, but so I would say collectibles, as they're known, is ancillary things that are like attached to the game, but not necessary to complete the game. You don't have to ever like find or uncover any of them to finish given any random game.
True. Like a 1-up does the same exact job with less work.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's a specialist power-up.
What would you call that, a collectible? Like, I think it's got to be a little more...
no, I see what you're saying.
A little more specific than that, because, like, you don't necessarily have to have any rings in Sonic to beat it. You could just go through the entire game without getting hit, theoretically.
That is true,
right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't call it, but I still wouldn't call those collectibles. Those are your life.
No, I agree.
They have a direct impact on the things that you're doing. I think collectibles have to be something that has a later impact on the game, not an immediate impact on the gameplay.
Right. Or like I said, like an ancillary kind of thing.
So like 1-up immediately gives you a 1 extra life. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't call it a collectible, right? Like it's got to be something that you have to discover throughout the course of the game, and then it gives you some kind of something.
Some benefit in some way, shape, or form.
And we're going to talk about later how a lot of the times that something in games, specifically recently, that something is kind of completely ancillary. It doesn't matter to the game at all, and which is perhaps, at least to me, kind of fucking annoying. But, you know, go on. I'm sorry.
No, oh good. You're right, though. Like, this is something, this is nothing. So, if anybody gets that. But no, like, for example, so next division I had, speaking of that, is something like this, right? Where there's either, if not an immediate gameplay, like, kickback, some kind of kickback through it, or the other big division I would say is, like, expanding the lore of a game. So you find, like, extra books, or, like, notes and diary entries, like Resident Evil, like, did that shit. Like, a lot of other games did them, too, but that's
Alien.
that's the one I wrote down.
Yeah.
Right, so, for example, some games, if you find X out of Y if you get enough of a set of collectibles, you'll get like a bonus, like some XP or something in certain games, or an extra item or whatever, right? Which could be helpful mechanically, but you don't need to do it. But if you do, then at least you're getting some kind of benefit here. Like, sure, it might be like a small XP boost in other games, but at least if you do enough of them, then that might be significant and might add to your overall XP. But again, you do not have to do it.
Right.
The worst ones, I would say, and I have it here, is Assassin's Creed, of course. Especially like the first couple, right? Where like all the feathers and all the pages and all that shit, like it didn't mean anything at all. No matter how, if you found them all, good for you. So what? Right? It didn't have any gameplay impact.
Billion fetch quests for no reason.
Right. And if Ian Mans over here, who would also, I think, back me up, is that it's just busy work. It's padding for a game, right? And that's I would say, the most egregious, when games do it that way, that's what really grates on me, and that's what really I find annoying, and it makes me dislike it.
What's really annoying about something like with the feathers with Assassin's Creed 3 is because you had the pages of the book in Philadelphia. Was it Boston?
I don't remember. You mean Ben Franklin shit?
The Ben Franklin shit.
The almanac.
And I think that actually did something, but
I don't remember.
but the feathers did nothing.
If you don't remember, it doesn't fucking matter.
All right.
That's the other thing.
Because I always hate that. Like, and I think it was that game, or maybe it was one of the I know it was one of the Assassin's Creed games where they kind of duped you, and it's like, oh, certain collectibles meant something, and the rest of them were busy work.
Right.
And that's kind of like, fuck you.
Well, that's another thing, right? Like that also is grating when you're not. The game might make it clear, or even if it is clear enough, like, okay, then I might as well collect only these ones because, again, they have some kind of kickback benefit for me in the game versus just ancillary stuff. But to be fair, there's something attached to that I'll get to in a second. But I'll go back to what you just said. Like, yeah, for example, in Black Flag, which I think we agree is the best Assassin's Creed, there were pages, but there were sea shanties, which then added more songs. Like, that was something different in universe that changed things.
So that added songs to the soundtrack of the game?
Yes, exactly.
That's cool.
When you're on your...
It's like Metal Gear Solid, how they did that.
And I have that,
you
too.
can find cassette tapes and,
Because when you're on the Jackdaw, the crew would sing the different shanties.
Right.
It was,
and if you collected more of them... then you would hear different songs and more of them.
Don't you have any other songs? Go find more.
The next
find them for us.
But that was also your motivation because you get there and they'd sing like two songs and
Sure. So like, I mean that's funny, but they sort of explained it away kind of like that. But at least in that instance, I thought it was fine enough because it did change something.
It's interesting and it adds a little bonus to the gameplay, or not the gameplay, but the atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah, it adds. It's world building. It adds character to it.
Exactly, and that's the other one I'm getting to.
Uncharted. The Uncharted games, like they had a lot of the like trinkets and trophies that you could find.
Those are all bullshit, man.
I know they were all bullshit, but at the same time, you're a treasure hunter, and
it makes sense that you're finding them.
And it makes a level of sense that you're finding this stuff, like even though it has no bearing on the gameplay whatsoever,
or on the actual mission that you're on. To like, you're like, oh, I found all this shit from, wherever, like.
Did it give you more? Did it give you more money?
No.
Okay.
It was just there, but
because
that's a good one.
Was because I was gonna say on that is like it drives me nuts when like I can't remember what game it was. Like certain collectibles give you more money, but you've already maxed out. It goes back to that whole you always have more money than you need.
Nightmarish head of money, which only grows.
Yeah, and then
you had like the old sandbox games like Spider-Man 2 when that came out.
Yeah,
where like you can trade these collectibles or like what have you in for like either experience or money.
Right. And that's fine too. Like again, that's a gameplay element. Adds to gameplay. You can upgrade things faster or get different upgrades.
Which is weird. Why they moved? Why did they move away from that? Because
it became a trend. Like I just want to get into that, Rich. Seriously,
I think it's a little bit of like lazy game. I don't want to call these game designers lazy. I'm sure they do a fucking shitload of work. Like
it's a lot of work.
I'm sure they're fucking busting their ass on this shit.
It's follow the leader though.
It's like, oh, we need to have collectibles in here, and you're like,
exactly.
All right, well, let's just throw some shit out in the world and people can find it. It's like, no, that's not. That shouldn't be the point of that.
Because going off of that, like especially in Uncharted, where you have to find like I guess 100 or 1,000 trinkets or whatever the fuck.
That was a lot.
Like you have to have like a devoted team specifically to make these individual models.
Mm-hmm.
And then like
it all costs money.
Yeah, and it's
graphics cost money, Rich.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a. I want to say a waste. I mean, it's like they hired some people or they had to. Just like, oh, just fuck off. And
they could be pouring resources. Like the funny thing is, I often I think I'd be a good collectible hider, like as a job, like whatever you might call it. Like I guess it's part of level design, really, sort of in a sense. But, I mean, Uncharted is a good one because, yeah, it makes narrative sense, I guess, that as Drake you find like all this random shit throughout the levels, but it doesn't do anything, it doesn't actually matter.
Which is why I felt so... I had this like weird feeling like as I'm like finding these, I'm like, this kind of brings me like further into his role. Like I really feel like
immersive,
a hunter,
but also
like more immersive. But I'm like, but this means jack shit.
I was gonna say, but at the same time, like if you were in his shoes, why the hell would you be like going off to some random nook to like go find this thing? Like, look, man, there are people shooting at me right now.
Hold on,
I need to
fucking. Sometimes the characters make reference to that, which I find fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I mean they lampshaded here and there. Like, hold on, PMC, I need to get us an ancient coin or whatever.
To me, it's kind of frustrating when people are like, "Oh man, it's so annoying having to go like find these collectibles in game." When they say that, I'm like, "Well, then fuck you. Just make it better, game designers. Like, don't make it so that your character has to remark on how fucking stupid this is."
Yeah, they can lampshade it if they want, but it's still there. You know what I mean? Like you're still doing, like you're jogging in place. You're doing a chore again, like busy work.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so that's the thing, right? It's fine if they're gonna have it be that if again, like I said, if you get X out of Y, then you can trade them in. Or, again, get an upgrade that you wouldn't have attained otherwise, or maybe faster, like, before you could have obtained it, not doing it. But I will say, like, things like the lore building stuff, that is another, like, big division I have in my notes. I guess I would purport that is sort of your mileage may vary kind of a thing, because, like...
That and the Arkham games, too, with the Riddler collections.
Yes.
Because, like, they unlock, Jesus like... Christ. Behind the scenes photos and concept art, and like if you're into that stuff, like it's good.
It's worth it. Yeah,
but in the Arkham Knight game, you get the if you do all the Riddler stuff, you get
also get an alternate ending.
But you get the special ending.
That's true,
which is fucking awesome.
Yeah. So again, like that's fine if game's going to have that. Then it is sort of again, it's going to depend whether you think it's worth it. But at least you'll see something. It's something different rather than just like the worst thing. Again, channeling Ian is that just you have like 500 bars or like. 100%. Okay, now I got these ones. And, like, that's all it is. There's no other benefit or anything advantageous to doing it. Yeah, and that's, like, the most egregious and where it gets a little, like, come on, really? Like, it's just padding again. And, yeah, it's funny that you point out, like, what you just said, Steve-O, where they mentally, like, lampshade it. However, Blood Dragon did that, and I thought that was funny because it was mocking itself.
If you do it well, it's fine. But if you're just like, oh, as a game designer, you're like, oh, I'm now realizing halfway through that this is just bullshit, and like, there's no reason for them to be collecting these, especially in terms of like the gameplay and the plot. Like, and then you just make a little joke about it. I think that's fucking stupid. Yeah, it's like if you build an entire game around meta commentary, then yes, by all means, put it in there.
Sure,
as they did with Blood Dragon. Like, that's fucking fine.
But even so, and the funny thing is, like, on top of that, the Blood Dragon one still did shit. Like, if you get enough of them, you still get kickbacks. You got money for them, or you got, again, upgrades and so forth. But I will say, like, all right, let me toss this one out. I'll ask you guys a question. The one I have in my notes is you can pick either franchise, Elder Scrolls or Fallout. All the lore, like, especially Elder Scrolls, like, all the books you can find. Not necessarily collectibles. You don't have to, like, there's no, like, bar tracking which ones you have or have not found. But they do add a lot to the world, so, like, you might go out of your way to find them. But there's no, like... Again, there's no achievement or whatever attached to it. So if you're an achievement whore, like E would be.
That's what I was going to say. I really like that they don't have a bar saying how many of those you've gotten or whatever. So if you get them, cool. If you're into that shit, cool. If you're looking at like a bookshelf in
Skyrim,
one of those games, probably Skyrim most likely. But like, if you're looking at a bookshelf and you're like, oh, this book isn't burned or whatever, that's Fallout more so. But
either way,
like this book is readable. And you read it, and you like take the time to like go and like they're all like several pages. Like you flip through them, and that's cool. But it's not like, oh, you're never going to know if you got 100% of them, and you probably never will because there's a shitload of them.
Somebody has a wiki tracking it.
I'm sure someone's got 100%. I know what but you like,
mean.
But with Fallout, as opposed to Skyrim, Fallout, the magazines give you certain
bonuses.
Things.
Oh yeah,
and then I can't remember if Fallout 3 was the one where you could trade the books in for.
Yes,
like the
pre-war books.
So I'm going to say that like at least you had that.
Now again, and again, I point to them as one of the ones who did it better because of that. Right? There's no like tracker again. There's not even a quest to find like X out of Y. I think the Brotherhood just says like, hey, if you find any books, bring them to us, and you'll get an in-game kickback again.
But those don't even. I think in Fallout 3, you can't even read them. They're just pre-war books, and like if you find them,
the magazine thing came in Vegas and later.
Yeah,
but.
I don't know. I think were there
the
magazines in
magazines.
3?
No,
Yeah.
there definitely were not.
Really?
Really? Okay, I thought there were, but
Well,
like either way.
There might have been. You might be right, but the stat boost was different.
But
That might have been one.
yeah,
It doesn't
they
matter,
gave
though.
you something
Yeah.
every time you got a magazine.
Right.
There wasn't actually anything to read in them.
No.
They just gave you
Right.
a bonus or whatever.
Exactly.
Which is fine.
There was no actually text, but again, like that's at least me being him. I always appreciate whoever's job it is as well to write all the fucking like lore building shit, because somebody, again, like you're saying, Rich, somebody has to do that. There's a team somewhere writing, doing all this shit that puts in the game that many people may not even see it, and so I sort of feel bad for them, especially if a game like, for example, Dishonored is a good one. I sought out all the books in that one because it was good world building, and it added a lot to it, for me at least.
Well, it's like, I was thinking Dishonored and Dragon Age, because you had Varric's
Yeah,
book,
DA is a good one too. Yeah.
but also there was the one in the Palace. There was that. It was like some kind of like fetish romance thing that you would find.
Oh yeah,
like,
it was like a medieval, like equivalent of like a romance novel.
yeah, it was. So it was great. You're like tooling around the castle, and you're like, oh, I want to read. You know, it's stuff like that. I like the random stories are good, but after a while, it's just like I like to have something that motivates you. Like, oh, I want this chapter.
Sure, like if it's done well, then it's going to like sort of like, you know, maybe not compel you, but spur you perhaps. Like, oh, I want to see, like you said, the next entry in this, a history part 4 of whatever, or like again the next chapter or whatever it may be. But I will say one more thing about the Fallout thing. So, in Universe and Fallout, there are literally collectibles in the form of bobbleheads.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
also though give you a very hard to obtain stat bonus. So it's again worth it to seek them out.
And you know, I think Fallout did it really well in terms of that. Like, I love all those stat bonuses that
Yeah, I
you get
agree.
from those things. Like, you know, just finding a bobblehead in those games feels really good.
It's rewarding because
Yeah.
you're like, shit, yeah, hell yeah.
And like in the way that finding a pigeon in GTA feels like
Is
who
the
gives a
complete
shit.
fucking opposite of that. Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. But I do. Well, I don't know if this is the right time for it, but I am going to talk about God of War at some point.
Okay, we'll get to it real quickly because God of War,
If you
at
got
the
something else.
time of this recording, has come out very recently, and
Only half of us have played any of it at this point.
some of us have been playing it, some of us are waiting, but it looks awesome. But you were saying precast about how they did it there, so I just have a couple more things like just to point out. For example, like of course one of my favorite games ever is BioShock, and the collectibles are essentially the audio diaries. Like
The
pretty
audio
much
logs,
it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, but
But
those
that's
are
again really good world building, and there is a tracker for them, so you know, and there's achievement of course as well. But again, it adds a lot to the setting itself.
But it also adds a lot to what you're doing, your motivation.
Sure.
It really is kind of like breadcrumbs for the character.
Yeah, exactly.
There was an article that I read and I posted up on.
I think it was a Kotaku article, I believe.
Yeah, it was Kotaku, and it was like the 10 Commandments of like putting collectibles in your games.
And it was pretty solid.
Which is it was good. It was just an interesting thing. It was kind of mostly the rules that I would like to see myself.
Yeah, I mean-
like had already had this idea of what they were, but like they did it in kind of humorous article. But
they're very reasonable.
But they talked about like kind of have like the idea was that like you have to have these specific rules for putting collectibles in the games, and if you don't follow them, then your collectibles are going to be shit.
Yeah.
And like I don't know.
At least follow enough of them. Like
Yeah.
you can break maybe one or two, but
I just had one in mind. It slipped my mind what I was going to say.
what a game.
No, one of the rules,
rules.
that I was going to talk about, but it just slipped my mind.
Wait, do things like you shoot count as collectibles? Because I was thinking about
They can.
Resident Evil 4. You had the
medallion things.
The medallion things.
Yes, but again, you will get. I believe you got a kickback in some sense for
Well,
that.
there's
although I
two
don't
things.
remember.
There's the medallions, and there are like the blue crystal things.
Yeah, the blue medallions thing I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then wasn't there something else? I don't know.
I'm trying to. I should remember this from Resident Evil 4. There were like gems and shit you could find,
Yeah.
which were also like if you had like certain combinations would upgrade an item, make it worth more to sell.
Yes.
So that was at least again.
Yes,
gameplay.
yes.
That's what I was going to say. I just remembered.
Yep.
The audio logs point that you made. One of the rules was like, if you have audio logs in your game, make sure that you can continue playing the game while you're listening to them.
Yeah.
Which is a really important point. Like, I've played games where you have to like stop, go to your menu, listen to the audio log, and then start playing again.
Yeah.
It is the most annoying goddamn
It
thing in
halts
the
all
world.
the action
It's
completely.
really self-indulgent,
and it's annoying.
Any developers who are listening to this podcast, perhaps you're out there, don't fucking do that,
Don't do that.
please.
Here's the thing, like, can you
Tell
guys
Ara
think of a
next time
game?
you,
Can you guys think of a game that did that recently? Because
not recently.
Does
It was an
Arkham do
early
that?
thing.
Don't you have to open up the menu and order a list?
Yeah, I
really
think
don't
it
remember.
did.
That's what I'm asking you
No.
guys.
It didn't. It let you. Maybe the first one. I don't know. I don't
honestly
remember.
don't remember. But if they did, then that would be annoying. I just don't like. I feel like if they did it, I would have remembered that was annoying, and I would have said it now. But
I think at this point it's a relic.
yeah,
But still, like I remember
Certainly.
having to do
Usually,
that in games.
because immediately if I found a recording, I just exit out
Yeah.
and like hope for the best. It's like either it stops
Hope I don't
playing
need
or
this.
either it continues playing
Yeah.
while I'm
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
but no, like of course, Bioshock, like I said, did it well because you pick one up and say, hold whatever to listen or not. If you don't have
Right.
to, right? But sure. All right. So
And the other, hold on,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, one
No
other thing.
problem.
The other point that they made in that one is like, and if you have audio logs, make them readable in case your audience wants to just read them
afterwards,
instead of
yes,
just listen to them,
which they did as well.
which is a good point as well.
All right. So I think this might be a good spot for you guys to jump in. Tell me about God of War, and the new God of War, and how they're doing it.
You want to jump in first, Rich?
Yeah, sure. Well, you got the regular collectibles that they've had throughout the games that like add on to your life, onto your mana,
Yeah,
and
your rage meter.
yeah, your
whatever
rage
it may
meter.
be, yeah.
There we go. And you also have the toy collectibles that they've introduced now, which they do anything, or are they just like tradables for?
You get so basically the toy collectibles, I guess we'll call them, like there's like a set of cups, there's like a set of masks,
Right.
there's a set of like ship
Like little
whatever,
toy
like
ships or-
like
Wooden chips or whatever.
add-ons to ships or whatever the hell it is. Like there's a bunch of them, and it says right in there when you go to like the shop, we'll say it says right in there like this has no other use.
Yes.
Sell
Other
it
than
right
this-
away.
yeah,
Like, you basically just sell it.
Parts.
So it's vendor trash, more or
Yeah.
less.
And but you get some, especially early game, you get some decent cash for those that you can really use.
So you're
which
saying
is-
it's totally worth
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
to do it? Yeah,
Like there
and
isn't
that's good.
I haven't.
it's well
like,
done.
He's a lot farther than I am, but like I haven't found a wasted collectible yet.
And that's fucking solid design.
And most of the other collectibles stuff that you get around throughout the game that like you're looking for, there's some things like you dig up. There are so many damn collectibles in this game. In any other game that didn't do it as well, it would annoy the living shit out of me.
Right.
Because like every area you go to, it's like a list of like 6 different things. You found like 3 of 5 of this. You found like 2 of 5 of this. You
Yeah.
found 1 of 3 of this. Like
Sure.
there's every single area that you go to. Like I'm talking about like not. So in the game, there's a bunch of realms, but within the realms, there's like they're each the same size map. It's an enormous game, and in every realm, there's like little areas
Right.
that are just that area, and you can
That are
and there's a
specific
list and there's a
to
list
it,
for
yeah.
every single area. There's a million collectibles, but
Sure.
at the end of them, you get some kind of reward for every
Right.
single
You're
one.
so saying
Yeah.
it's not there just to be there, and in fact, it's
Right.
helpful at
Plus,
the
not to
beginning.
mention all the random power ups and talismans you pick up. that
Yeah, and
give you,
that's the
like,
big
special
thing. So like a lot of them will
abilities,
give you items that you can trade in at the shop for better like equipment or to upgrade your equipment or to craft new equipment, stuff like that. It all has a use, which is great.
It actually was daunting to me when I first started doing it.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
that's it. Can be like it often can be. Like I found games that were like, oh Jesus, like look at them all.
You're gonna feel that way at the beginning of this game,
Sure,
yeah.
but
the thing
then
is,
once you
I've
realize
had
like
that
what it
happen before.
is, like you get special items that
It's like
only
you
upgrade.
you like
certain-
dip your toe in for a little bit, and like they're very good about easing you into it.
Mm.
Mm.
Where like they actually don't tell you all of the stuff that you can
They're
do.
giving me a
until, like,
gateway drug collectible.
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. Like the first time you run into like the dwarf that like helps you craft everything, he's like
No.
set up shop at like this like rundown shack / tree or like this like box that he found. And he's like, hey, and then like next time you see him, he's got a full shop, and he's like, now we're ready to get into some shit.
yeah,
Now,
Here's
see-
your armor. Here's your like your upgradable weapon. Here's
Now, see, I like that too because you don't. It's a bit few and far between, but it seems to be you're saying so. You run into like an early shopkeeper, and then you bring him X out of Y again, whatever, and then next time you see him, he's like a bigger, more elaborate thing, and like again, that sort of adds to the world, and it's sort of to me, it's always been kind of funny when that happens. Like even like old old SNES games would do it too, and I would take the time.
I actually love that
to
'cause
do
I
it.
love making like the backstory in my head. They're just like kind of following you on their own adventure.
Yeah.
It's like you just keep crossing paths.
Well, the great thing about these dwarfs is, and you're a decent ways into the game at this point. You've
Yeah.
run into them a
Yeah.
bunch at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's like they, like you basically have to travel physically throughout everywhere you go, and they just fucking
They're just
show up there,
Yeah.
and you're like, how the hell did you do that? Like, the game is literally like, in game, your character's like, where the hell did you come from? Like, how did you get here?
At one point, he's just like, "Fuck you, that's how."
Yeah,
like legit,
Basically.
like literally, like "Fuck you, that's how."
That's really funny.
It's insane.
But no, like, so that's a well done instance. What you're saying, you're praising it because they made it worth it, and it's both world building and helpful to gameplay as well. And of course, I think we all agree, like, that's how it should be done.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I would say the most egregious error was like last gen. So like Xbox 360, PS3 games were like really guilty of like doing again just. We have to have collectibles, so let's have
Pointless collectibles because
Like,
they're the thing that you have to do.
Yeah, but why? Like, for what?
So everybody wants that 100%.
Yeah, again, of course, cynically, they're like, well, if you want to platinum it, you better find all the goddamn shit. But does it really matter? It doesn't mean anything in game or to even the story sometimes.
Exactly.
So sure. So that is one of top games of the year. But Horizon Zero Dawn sort of did the same thing where there was a lot of lore building ones, but there was no achievement. There was no 100% like thing for it. There was a tracker for it. You didn't have to do it, and it was just again good lore building, world building as well. And there were some other ones that you again. Pretty much similar to what you guys were saying, where like collect a set of 4 or 5 and then trade them in at the shop or to a merchant for something better, like an item, or just sell them for a shitload of money.
Yeah.
And then again, that is a gameplay mechanic which you can use to do something with. So yeah, man, like I think we are seeing. I guess I have one more example as I just finished Far Cry 5, so I had to give them credit because usually, of course, again, Ubisoft is probably like the most, or at least was at one point, like the leader of the pack of just like
Bullshit.
here's 1,000 of them in every fucking game and how they matter. But in 5, they were tied to quests. So like someone's like, find my grandfather's like relics or something like that, whatever it was, right? But it was part of a quest. So like
my grandfather's watch.
And it was lighters like from the Vietnam thing. So it doesn't matter. There were like 3 or 4 of them though. Throughout the whole like area, so like you meet like a character or 2 in each little region that wanted something. It was basically a fetch quest, so you'll find 10, whatever, 12, whatever it was. But it was tied to a quest, so that meant experience, and sometimes it would send you to like a different location that like you wouldn't have gone, or like a hidden one or whatever. So again, it tied into the narrative more than just like, hey, these things are here because again they're here.
Would you count the preppers bunkers as their own little collectible? Because it was kind of like a, hey, so-and-so prepared for the blah, 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 and then you have to figure a way to get in, and
I
you
would
get
say
in.
less so. I say those are more like sort of mini puzzles. Certainly you get like the upgrade magazines, like the perk magazines.
You get the perk magazines, and you get a shit ton of money.
Yeah, it was so like, the prepper stashes themselves, I would say, are more like little mini instances, like mini missions, I guess I want to say. But like, definitely the comic book thing and the lighter thing and whatever. I forgot some of the other
You get
stuff.
collectibles from them, basically.
Sometimes, yeah. But just I'm saying, like in any game before this, it was like, hey, just comic books would just be in the world for no fucking reason, just to have. But in this one, like a character, an NPC gives you this quest, and if you find all the ones, you go, then you turn it in, and you get like again cash reward or an upgrade or whatever. Like even an alternate costume. Like sure, it's just cosmetic or aesthetic, but at least it's something rather than just again by rote like here's a big list of stuff and just do it if you want. Like and then if you want 100% achievement, then you have to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel as if there was a positive move away towards like just throwing a bunch of shit in just to have it, and sort of almost bizarrely, as we were saying, returning to the original like intention of if you're going to do it and have them, then it gives you again a bonus or an advantage in some sense.
Yeah, I think that there's like a renaissance of like figuring out. Well, that's not even necessarily true. I think that game developers are starting to figure out that collectibles should, like, if something's in the game, it should mean something. It should have a reason.
Yes.
And like, because games are such a new medium, right? Like, so people are like just trying new things, and like sometimes they're not going to work. Like and at some point, I think that they should realize that it has to work the same way as like writing. And like, you're going to put something into this, it's got to serve a purpose. Like, there shouldn't be wasted bullshit because you can throw a trophy in
a trend or
whatever.
something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they're starting to realize that more and more as we go, and you're starting to see that a little bit,
especially with this new generation.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I fully agree. And again, from the bunch that I played so far that did have them, I feel as if they're again making a better step towards like realizing that like perhaps it's like some of the developers got so much shit from the fans, like from their customer, like, listen, stop doing this shit because it's super fucking annoying.
Yeah.
What's up, Chris?
I was thinking about that because I didn't play the Assassin's Creed 2 trilogy, but like I started Assassin's Creed with Assassin's Creed 3, and I was like, oh my god, enough.
That's probably the worst
and
one
then
of
you
them,
get
too.
to Black Flag, and you're like, all right, they learned their lesson. And then you get to whatever it was, Unity, and then whatever, and it's like, oh Jesus Christ. I mean, because at least the one in England, you would get. I mean, in both of those, you could get like certain, like you said, costumes or certain weapons or whatever
Upgrades, even, yeah.
upgrades. But the thing is, it's like you had to sift through so much bullshit.
Yeah.
It just became like, I'm fucking done with this crap.
No, I agree. And like I said, I think Ubisoft certainly dialed it back in their games, and other studios have followed suit to an extent. And again, I think you're right, Steve. Like, we are seeing, like, if not a renaissance per se, as you said, something like they are maturing. They're realizing that they need to balance them. And I like the writing analogy. Like, if you're going to do it, have it serve a purpose, as you said, Rich. Mm-hmm. Have it be there for a reason, not just, again, because people expect it, and that way you can have a sort of a fake difficulty, like shoot all the fucking pigeons, whatever. Like, okay, but why? For what? Like,
for what reason?
Yeah. So, I mean, you could have like pigeons there to be shot anyways, not even have it be a collectible, it'd be the same fucking difference. Another instance, any instance like that. So yeah, I mean, that's all. Yeah, good.
Well, I was gonna say before I think you're about to, you're getting close to wrapping up, but before we wrap up, favorite collectibles from any game, like off the top of your head. We didn't prep for this at all. So.
No, that's a good one. Well, I mentioned it earlier. I did like the VHS tapes from Blood Dragon because they had funny descriptions.
Yes, those are awesome.
They're really great.
Got
anything else?
Red Dead. What were the collectibles in Red Dead?
I have Red Dead, but I don't.
See,
remember.
you can't call it your favorite if you can't remember what it is.
I don't remember what they were specifically.
No, because right now, off the top of my head, I'm thinking either BioShock or Alien Isolation, because I like that kind of. It actually is world building, but it actually helps complete your personal narrative.
Yeah, Prey had some good ones too. Recent games.
I didn't play Prey yet.
I did love BioShock. I did love actually Skyrim. The books were really cool.
Yep,
and like you said, that's going to be, some people will read them, some people won't. But I like that you can like opt out of it and still 100% the game if you don't want to fucking read all that shit or whatever. But the one that I always come back to is Fallout, the bobbleheads.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to circle back to that too.
Yeah, because it's so well done, because they make sense. Again, it's a collectible in a literal collectible in universe.
But I do want to, and like these are kind of worthless, but like I do want to give a shout out, and like I'm going back on everything that I've said, but like I do want to give a shout out to the Doom guys in Doom.
I was going to mention that earlier. Yeah, like I was in my mind.
They're just awesome. Every time I discovered one, I was so happy, and like in the new Doom, that is.
Yeah, now that you mention it, Doom 2015. What were the other collectibles?
There was other stuff that
but there were bonuses though, right?
Well, like I don't want to call them collectibles, but you could get like old school levels, right? Which was cool.
That's right.
Like they did a bunch of
Wolfenstein did that too.
Yeah, they did a bunch of throwbacks to like the old games, which was awesome. And like the newest Doom was a really good reboot of the series.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with it, and I did love finding the Doom guys around.
And I'm going to say one last thing with the Arkham games. I'm really happy that it may have taken 3 or 4 games.
They figured
out.
But
the fact that they really did give you a chance, like even if you finish the main story, to go back and collect all the Joker things because you got that ending.
The Joker things.
Or the Riddler things.
Yeah. Richie, what were you going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say the Smash Brothers collectibles.
Ooh. Nice. Okay.
Like I love one. Like I had a lot of fun, like the fight being broken up for like a few confused seconds where you're just like, oh shit, trophy. I don't have it.
Yeah.
So like, run and get that and like restart the fight.
Yeah.
So
it
had even more chaos to
it. Yeah. And like it had like just the amount of work they went into for like remastering all of these theme songs and pictures and like these, like making the time to make these trophies. I think it was like upwards of like 300 or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And like you could look at them individually, like with a 360-degree view. Or you could like set them all up on your collectible table.
Yeah, that's cool.
Display.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
I think the answer to your question is, because I was circling back to Black Flag with the shanties. And I'm like, I think the question is, what games do you like the collectibles for? Because it's just like we've all been pulling out multiple collectibles. Like, oh, this was cool. This was cool. So obviously, if we're not pointing it out, we don't keep circling back to it. probably pretty much all the other collectibles and all these
are the
other games are
exceptions,
shit.
and the rest is just the.
I mean, like that's the thing. Like
generic rule.
Specifically, what I love about the Fallout, like the bobbleheads, is that you can, and especially, I don't know if you could do this in Fallout 3, but in Vegas and 4. You have a
literal
setup that you can like display all your bobbleheads in your like wherever you call home, which was cool. Like I could go back and like look at all my bobbleheads. Yeah. Like they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything new for you, but like I'd be like, oh yeah, look at all that shit. Or like this is how many I have left to go.
Sit and admire them.
Yeah, no, sure, right. So like, one done well, I would say. I guess let's end off with what makes a good collectible. So we'll have like maybe 2 or 3 points that it has to hit. It has to fit into the setting or world of the game,
right?
Has to matter in some way, has to maybe again give you an advantage, or if you get enough of them, then you can cash that in some however you want to define cashing it in as.
I would say more than just money, because usually in these games you find too much money. So if you can trade it for a special,
if it's balanced well, so like even if you do get just money, then that's still worth it to you to get them.
As long as the money's worth it, then it's fine. Like the problem is that most games you can just grind and get too much money
regardless.
I think that there needs to be, if you're going to make collectibles a big part of the game, and their money is the big thing that they're worth, like whatever the in-game currency is,
it has to be
then you need to balance the currency
against
levels.
That. Yeah, of course.
It just has to be worth it.
Otherwise, it becomes like, again, just a chore. Like, why would I even do that? Because if I could just grind money elsewhere.
When I have, $1 million and I can turn in a collectible for $500, who gives a shit?
Doesn't drop matter. In the fucking bucket. Yeah. No, I agree. So, like you said, like, it is heartening that it seems to be seeing, like, the tide is somewhat turning. Like, maybe more devs are realizing it, or they have enough pushback from fans like us and others who are like, enough. Guys, no more enough with that kind of collectible.
And I think, like, in large part, they're starting to get a template for, like...
What works.
And what is just garbage, And that's not always obvious, like, when you're going into a game. So I get that. But, like, and now that other games are doing it well and, like, really starting to think about it and trying to put thought into what those collectibles are worth and what they do for your players, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good trend that
they're figuring out a better balance, and hopefully we'll see. Maybe then they'll figure out even a better way to do it. And like you said, God of War is promising because, according to you guys, they're doing it very well, and that sounds great. And looking forward to play that game and other games that incorporate them in the same manner as well. Absolutely. All right. So, anything else I missed, or any final thoughts
on the
C word collectibles? Nope.
Jesus.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it. Thanks for joining us. This has been Lost Signals, Games and Gaming Culture. I, of course, have been Scott Thurlow, here with Rich Perry.
Game on.
And Chris Morgan.
I'm a bobblehead.
Yep, you sure are. And Stephen Amosi.
Have a good night.
And collect them all. See you next time. Thank you for joining the Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows and more, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.